Hello, I'm bringing you another video today on a critically important factor in organizational behavior, and the topic today is all about leadership. Today we're going to use a very specific definition of the term leadership, and that is the use of power and influence to direct the activities of followers toward goal achievement, whatever that goal might be. Now, here's my theory right up front. As organizations and industries grow, and as management becomes more robust and or more complex in structure, the ability for leaders to participate in transformational leadership is hindered or otherwise reduced. All right, let's begin this talk by defining this important term, transformational leadership. I'm going to read you its lengthy definition because it's important, but I've tried to summarize it here for you with the 2 points that are written in white. All right, transformational leadership is, quote, a pattern of behavior where the leader inspires followers to commit to a shared vision that provides meaning to their work, while also serving as a role model, that's the manager, who helps followers develop their own potential and view problems from new perspectives, end quote. Now, here's why we're talking about transformational leadership today. Because as leaders and managers, there is nothing more critically important than inspiring our followers to unite around a common cause, so they feel personally invested in that cause, and then each individual will then give of herself or himself to both the team and to the cause. Now, our topic of discussion today comes from a Business Insider article named, here's a long one for you too, Coders are no longer the high-flying stars of big tech, and it's making them grumpy. Yeah, that's the name of the article. Now, from the name, we can see that the discussion is about coders or software engineers. But the article gets at a principle that is applicable across industries when it says this. An inconvenient truth is that much of the tech sector's problems stem from the fact that the industry strayed from its roots of listening to the front lines. So these coders, the software engineers, these are the frontline workers in the tech industry. They're the builders, the assembly line, the boots on the ground. The title of the article asserts that coders are no longer the stars of the tech industry. And that assertion begs the question, why not? Well, listen to how the article continues. The collaborative culture at tech companies not only kept employees happy, but also helped create better products for customers. The buildup of layers of management without also adding tech-savvy workers that build its core products has resulted in a sclerotic environment, or one that is rigid and unresponsive. And that environment is weighing on employees. If the tech industry wants to get back to the flow zone of innovation, productivity, and workplace happiness, executives must restart conversations with the frontline workers that make their products. Otherwise, they risk losing what made Silicon Valley so desirable in the first place. Now, the idea here is that a root cause of workplace unhappiness is the buildup of these layers of management. So the top leaders now have multiple degrees of separation between themselves and the boots on the ground. When this happens, transformational leadership becomes exponentially more difficult. And we're going to talk about why here in just a second. When considering transformational leadership, we have to understand what it is we are trying to transform. The aim is to transform the way that your followers or subordinates view their work. Now, we know that most, if not all, humans have a proclivity toward self-promotion. By nature, we look out for ourselves, for our own interests, for our own safety, both physical and otherwise, and we look out for our own advancement and success. A transformational leader's goal is to offer a reason, an inspiration to his or her followers that will cause them to look out for the team and the initiative instead of only themselves. What happens when there are multiple layers of management is that there becomes a gap between the decision makers at the top and the boots on the ground. When this divide happens, we have to choose to fill that gap with either trust or suspicion. Pastor, author, and leadership guru Andy Stanley gave a talk many years ago entitled Trust versus Suspicion. In this talk, he details what is required of people when there's a gap between what we expect and what we experience. Now, what does this gap have to do with transformational leadership? Everything. A transformational leader is asking for commitment. But when there's a divide or a gap between the ones leading the charge and the ones doing the work, a transformational leader is also asking for trust. And we all know from personal experience that when someone asks us for trust, they had better prove themselves to be trustworthy. Now, how can you know that someone's trustworthy if you don't spend quality time with them? It's a question to ponder. On this slide, you'll see two mutual commitments that people must make to one another in order for transformational leadership through trust to take place. So on the left, you see commitment to give trust, and then on the right, you see what it takes in terms of the commitment to be trustworthy. Now, I want to focus your attention on the third point on the left side of your screen. If what I see or experience begins to erode my trust, I will come to you directly about it. Now, here's the problem with large management structures. When a divide or a gap has been created by management between leaders and followers, there's not a forum, or at least not a good one, for a suspicious follower or subordinate to approach the leader about that gap that this leader has created. Now, in a way, it becomes impossible to choose trust all the time when you don't know what your leaders are up to. Transformational leadership is supposed to ask for followers to commit, but it's so hard to ask for commitment when the follower doesn't know exactly what or who they're committing to. All right, let's go back to the Business Insider article that we mentioned earlier. Its statement is that coders are no longer the stars of big tech, which suggests that at some point they were the stars. And at that point, two things were true of the tech industry. One, tech organizations were smaller in size, and two, the organizational charts in those companies were flatter than they are today. So what made the frontline workers the stars? Well, I think it was autonomy. They had a voice and they had freedom to give their opinion, and their opinion was valued. The leaders that founded these companies, they practiced transformational leadership from the outset. The boots on the ground believed in the cause, and they sacrificed for the cause and for the team from the very beginning. The tech industry is now in need of new transformational leaders to step in and step up. These new leaders need to involve the boots on the ground to ensure healthy and right perspectives are being held by the decision makers at these larger firms. Now, the trend in tech in the last 5 years has been toward managementization, which is a term that I think was coined by the author of this article. And this simply means that the ratio of frontline worker jobs to management jobs in the tech industry has decreased. So the number of managerial jobs in tech is relatively, it's 9% higher now than it was 5 years ago. The solution to this issue must be to elevate the voices of the frontline workers. For large, stable companies, this can seem really intimidating, because after all, the managers who make the big bucks and have all the legitimate and the coercive power in the organization, they're the ones most responsible for caring for the clientele, right? Well, no, I think that's wrong. Those managers, if they're to be transformational leaders, they actually have a duty first to their followers, to their employees. They need to earn buy-in from the frontline workers and subsequently allow those frontline workers to knock it out of the park, just like they're gifted and trained to do. More simply stated, leaders take care of their people and let their people take care of their customers. Thanks for taking time to watch today. I hope you took something from this. The top reference is my organizational behavior textbook, which I derived several terms and definitions from. The second reference here was published by a website called Essential Leadership Apps, and it contains the information from the Andy Stanley talk that I mentioned. There's also a direct link to Stanley's talk on that website, at least at the time of the recording of this video. And the final reference here is the primary article and topic of discussion from Business Insider. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.